When your job search goes stale, you don't want to change directions. Instead, you want to refine your approach. Otherwise, I promise you, you're going to keep running into the exact same roadblock every single time, but you're just going to run in different directions. If you're feeling stuck in your job search, like maybe you don't even know what to type into that search bar when you hit up those online job boards, then stick around because we're about to talk about getting crystal clear on your job search and how that's going to help you have more motivation. It's going to help your branding be so much better, and it's going to make your job search a lot faster. And I know this because I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. I've counseled, I've coached, I've taught students and professionals 18 to 80, and it's the same thing everywhere. If you're not clear on what you're doing, you can't take action. It'll haunt you at every stage of the way. It's going to make your resume too long and yet not really say very much. It'll make your interviews feel scattered. All of this is frustrating. And worst of all, you'll end up settling for a role that you probably didn't want in the first place. But the goal is that you can get really, really clear so everything changes for you. So employers understand you, trust you, and feel confident in the decision they're making. And so that when you leave the room, employers can advocate for you. So let's start breaking this down, and we'll start at the very beginning. What does it actually mean to get clear and to have that crystal clear perspective of what you want to do with your career? Here's the first thing: narrow down to one role. And I hear it all the time. One role, but I'm qualified for multiple. But here's the reality: I know that narrowing down gives you FOMO, but you can still apply to more than one role. It's just that your materials should be pinpointed at one role. And here's why. Imagine a V, like the letter V, Victor, right? So imagine a V, and that is your trajectory. At the point of the V, the bottom, that's your target role. When you apply to those roles, you have laser focus. But as you go out from that point, this wedge opens up. That's a space where you have leeway to apply to different roles. Now, you're not just applying to any role, you're looking for roles that are adjacent to or similar to your target role. That's where they're in the wedge, right? And so the reason you do that is because you targeted your brand materials to the point at the bottom of the V. That means that if you apply to other roles in that wedge space, now your marketing is 70, 80, 90% targeted to that role because, again, they're adjacent or similar. So, this is a way to be able to open up your opportunities, open up the possibilities, but still have a targeted brand. Your goal is to make sure that your brand communications have direction. Otherwise, you're going to be the jack of all trades and a master of none. And you and I both know that cliche: when you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And if you don't believe me, try it. Head to your local store, your HEB, your Stater Brothers, whatever store you're going to go to, and start talking about your day. But don't talk to anybody in particular. You're going to be talking, but you'll realize nobody is listening. And that's what happens when you don't have clear direction. Think about it. No one at the store, as you're talking, no one at the store feels like they have to give you a response. And no one at the store feels like your message is intended for them. Okay, so now you might be thinking, okay, I'll identify my one role and then I'm all set. But did you know you can actually hone in just a little bit more? And so here's what it looks like to get crystal clear direction. In addition to your one role, now look at company and culture and fit. Are you looking for a well established and highly structured corporate organization, a quick changing startup, or maybe it's like a heart focused and mission driven nonprofit? Figure out which environment is going to be the best fit for you and where you can make the most impact. All right, the second thing you can look at beyond the actual position is your industry. So I want you to think about industries where you have experience and expertise and knowledge, but also remember that you might have knowledge and experience of a population or a setting, even though you didn't actually work there. So, for example, if you homeschool, ed tech might be an area to look into. If you're a sports fanatic, then maybe sports and entertainment is going to be a space where you can bring added value with your other skills. Remember that you're bringing both your career skills and your career experience and that little something extra that makes you, you, and that makes you a whole person. So think of that as a bonus for the organization. Now, a few really important questions to ask yourself as you're going through this is number one, what excites you the most? What do you really enjoy? Number two, what aligns with your strengths? What might be difficult for others but easy for you? Or what skills have you developed? And number three, where am I best positioned? Meaning, where are you the most competitive and where's your best financial opportunity for your immediate next move? Now, where these three questions intersect, what do I like? What am I good at? What will pay me well? You probably found a really good role. And because you're going through this exercise, you also know potential qualities that would make a particular culture or company or industry a really good fit. Now, in addition to this, I also encourage you to look at both short term and long term opportunities. So, a good question to ask yourself here is what gap do I need to fill so that I have better career opportunities later? In other words, what skill can I gain now that will open more doors for me later? And that's what it takes to get really deep clarity that's going to build confidence for you and that's going to make your job search a whole lot faster. Now, all of this takes time and thought and effort. So I encourage you to be patient with yourself and not to rush the process because doing it right can turn your whole career search around. And clarity just, it's not something that you can figure out in 5, 10 minutes, or even an hour. In fact, a couple days ago, one of my clients told me that she spent 8 hours mapping out her career direction over the span of about a week. And because she did that, though, she now is going to have the confidence to stick with her plan even when things get tough because are going to get tough for, everybody in the career search, but it's just a matter of how long is that period going to last and is there an actual offer on the other end of that? For many people, I've seen people with like a year, 2 years, 3 years. The most I've seen is 4 years where someone just continues to submit applications and they see and hear nothing. Okay, so the other thing too is that over the last week, I was thinking about this and it kind of reminds me of a math problem. So think about it this way. Do you remember the math problems where you had to do a math problem in the book and then you had the answers in the back? Okay, well, think about it this way. If in the first step your six looks like a zero, which happened to me often, if your six looks like a zero and then you move forward with that mistake, the whole equation is wrong at every single step of the way, even if your calculations are technically correct. So you could have done everything right, but because you didn't have that first part correct, everything's wrong. And the worst part is you don't even know everything's wrong until you're done and you're proud of yourself and you box your answer and then you go to the back of the book and you realize it's not even right. Now you got to go all the way back and figure out what's going on. Your job search, it works in the same way. If you don't take the time now to get your foundation right, you're not really going to notice until 3 months, 6 months, 9 months down the road when you get the response and that rejection email or the non response over and over and over again. And eventually you realize, I did this wrong. So listen, take the time, get it right, and then you can move forward with a whole lot more confidence. And once you're clear, this is now the next part. You can stop recreating the wheel, meaning you know what position you want. Now you can leverage the clarity for really simple and compelling branding that, to be honest, is a whole lot more fun to create. So here's how we'll do this. You have so much experience, but you have to clean house. Imagine that you go into a room and all your career experience is in there, boxes and papers and, shoes, right? I need you to toss out everything that is not relevant to your ideal role. That's the first layer. Second layer is to set aside things that are relevant but are more tactical. We're going to use those later, but we don't actually need them right now. Right now, your focus is on high level skills and outcomes. You need the top 5 skills your employer most wants, your future employer, and the top 3 outcomes, 3 to 5 outcomes that they really want you to accomplish. Now, that's how you can target, right? So it's not about what you think is important on your resume. It's about what they need to see, what they need to hear from you. And you can get that from job postings. Okay, so let's say you've looked through job postings and you've identified the top 5 skills most important for the role and the top 3 to 5 outcomes. Now, find your biggest stories that are most relevant to your next role. Where did you have the most transformational outcome? The best before and after picture, basically. And make sure that it's also the most relevant work you have, because you can have this amazing outcome in sales, but if you're going for a position in, I don't know, let's say software development, it's not really going to transfer. Okay, so all of this is the foundation of your brand. And again, you were able to get there because you were crystal clear on the role you're interested in. Okay, so let's say your brand now is locked in. You now can create your cover letter, your LinkedIn, and your interview strategy. And all of these should follow the same messaging. They should all really come from your resume. So remember that you don't have to start from scratch every time. And the other question that I get a lot is, well, won't I be repeating myself over and over? Yes. Yes, you will be repeating yourself over and over. You have to. You're a professional brand now. Think about every other brand, Nike, McDonald's, Disney. You see repetition so often because we need to see things repeatedly to remember them. Now, of course, you're not going to directly copy and paste your resume into your LinkedIn and into your cover letter, right? That's not what I mean. That's like a no-no. So what you're going to do instead is you want to repackage the same message. So there'll be slightly different words, there'll be slightly different structure, but it's the same message for every piece of communication, just on a different platform. But the good part is that you have done the heavy lifting already when you created your resume. And so even interviews are going to feel a lot easier when they're part of a bigger system instead of one-off questions that you have to try and remember. Now, don't get me wrong, interviews are a whole other ball game. There's more strategy and planning and confidence, mindset, nerves, all the things, right? So, for that reason, I'm going to take a quick pause here and I'm going to invite you to a free masterclass to help you strategize your future interviews. So, I would love for you to join me in person on Thursday, February 13th at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, so you can learn how to answer what the hiring manager actually wants to know, but is never going to ask you. So head over into the description, click on the link, and know that it will be offered only for a limited time, of course, because it takes place on February 13th. So grab your slot now because I'm not actually sure we're going to offer this again. All right, let's keep going now. So let's say that you have clarity, you've created your branding, and you're full on in your job search. What happens if you hit a roadblock? Maybe you're not getting any response, right? This is where you need to trust the clarity you've built. When your job search goes stale, you don't want to change directions. Instead, you want to refine your approach. Otherwise, I promise you, you're going to keep running into the exact same roadblock every single time, but you're just going to run in different directions. And you don't really want that. So here's what you do. You look at your pipeline and you find the real bottleneck. Ask yourself which part of your search is the real issue. If you're getting interviews, then your resume, probably not the issue. But if you're getting too few or not any interviews at all, well, that's when you want to look at all the avenues that typically lead to your interview. We're talking resume, LinkedIn, your online presence, your networking messages, your screening calls, and the way in which you apply to jobs. I promise you, it's going to be really easy to disregard a lot of the other items and go back to tweak your resume or to change directions because maybe it feels like this market is saturated. I hear so often, I need to change careers because this space is too competitive. And then I look at the branding and I'm like, well, it's not that the space is too competitive. And I hate to say this, but I need you to hear it. It's that you are not competitive enough. And it's not about your experience, it's about your communication. So if we can gather the experience and communicate it in the right way, you now have a much better chance of getting hired in the space you actually want, not the one you're settling for. So your job is to trust the clarity that you've taken time to develop and to figure out the real issue instead. Listen, clarity is the foundation of a good job search. When you know exactly what you want and how to articulate that, you feel confident taking action even when you don't hear back because you know there's no other way except for this one. This is the right way. So you feel confident continuing to move forward. When you get into interviews, you're able to communicate really clearly. You can tell that in the way that people respond to you, and you just make a bigger impact in your communications. You also become irresistible to the right employer. That word, right, is so important because otherwise you probably will get hired at some point. But my guess is you're going to get the leftovers, the company that couldn't find any quality hires, and you are the best quality hire they can get, which you are an amazing professional, but your communications is just not portraying that. This process takes time, but I promise you it's so worth it. It will literally transform your career search. And I hear all the time that not only does it transform your career search, it transforms your life. Because remember, you are not here to settle, my friend. You are here to stand out. Now, before I let you go, over the last several, weeks and months, I've heard more and more and more how important values are in the job search. And not only that, how important faith is as one of the top values for several of my clients. So if this is you too, then you really want to stick around because next week on the podcast, author of A Christ Centered Company, Darren Shearer, is going to talk to us about ministry in the marketplace. And no, I'm not talking about having a Bible study or evangelizing during work hours. I'm talking about how to love like Jesus, even if you're in a secular environment. And again, don't forget about the interview masterclass that is coming up really, really soon on Thursday, February 13th, 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, where I will show you exactly how to answer what the hiring manager is actually looking for. And again, they're never going to ask you this. It's so crazy to me. Anyway, the link is in the description. Go ahead and sign up. I'll see you there. And as always, know that we're praying for you, we're cheering you on, and we're here to support you in your career journey. So go out there, take massive action, and I'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.